Hey friends, and welcome back to Path of Exile for a Day 5 update on our Flicker Strike League starter. So, a lot of upgrades happened yesterday. We actually found a Val Rapier in one of our Betrayal safe houses, and I went ahead and identified it and unveiled it to get physical damage and critical strike chance. Now, because this critical strike chance is so high, we were able to utilize this to change out of our old weapon. So our old weapon is actually better when it comes to damage per second. However, because we are able to switch out of our need for the crit ascendancy node, this one actually ends up being better for our damage in the long run, and we can build on its double damage stat quite a bit. In the end, I think a really good rare rapier is still going to be better, but this is what we have for now. Taking a look at the changes we've made on our tree, we have dropped these nodes over here, and we've started taking Impale. We also dropped some of our rage. We just have the one for a little bit of rage generation throughout the fight, and we started taking this Impale as well. So our objective here is we took these Impale, and we're going to take this Impale, and we also got the Watcher's Eye that lets our inflicts last 2 additional hits while using Pride, which of course we are. And last, we took the Sword Mastery that gives us 20% chance to impale enemies on hit. So, now our impale chance with Flicker Strike is 95%, which is going to become 100 as soon as we take this next node here. What that's allowed us to do is nearly double our damage with the inclusion of Impales. The last thing we did for Impale is we got these gloves. We bought the base gloves with the 30% chance to impale enemies off of trade, and I think this was 20C when I bought it. Then we hit it with a couple of essence to get some chaos resistance on it, and when we hit something that was good enough, we went with it. We got the additional strike target, and we called it good there. Another update we made is to the chest piece. All we did here is reroll the Eater implicit to give us 5% to block attack damage, which is pretty huge. We also upgraded our shield, and this one's got life, all res, lightning, and chaos res. So this has been a pretty big boost. We still need some chaos res, but we're working toward it. Today, I think I want to replace these boots with something that's much better, and also recraft our Stygian Vise, because this one is pretty bad. Alright, jumping into a quick T16 map, we're just going to see how the build feels. I've been enjoying myself on the build, it's been a fun time, and I'm very happy with where the build is. I think there's a lot of room to grow here, and I'm very excited to explore that. All of our next build upgrade options are going to be more expensive, so once we figure our defenses out, which is going to be pretty easy, we'll have to work a bit on getting our defenses solved. Not our defenses. Once we have our defenses solved, we'll need to work a bit on getting our damage increased, and all of the options to do that are pretty pricey. But that will be interesting. One thing to note here is that our attack speed has gone down, and that is because we're using Paradoxica instead of a rare rapier. And its attack speed at base, it's much lower. Now, there are probably better versions of Paradoxica for this build overall, but the increase in critical strike chance is pretty huge, so I like it. Also having some extra bleed chance is going to help us get the bleed crit from our single bleed wheel. Alright. Alright, so that's how the build feels in T16s right now. Yesterday we were able to, before I even upgraded to the Paradoxica, beat Shaper and Elder both. We did a couple of attempts at Uber Elder and ultimately failed those, though I will be trying again today with our new upgrades. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is because the Paradoxica's base crit is 8.5, we were able to drop Overwhelm entirely since it only gives us a crit chance of 8, and it was actually lowering our crit chance. So we switched over to Brutal Fervor, which should increase our survivability as well as our damage just a little bit. Alright, swapping over to PoB, you can see that our damage is at 1.9 million, and that is distance to enemy is 1, bleeding, sand stance, initial effect, all of our charges up, and rage at 10. This will take a little longer now because we don't have as much rage generation, but it should be pretty quick anyway. Alright, so like I said earlier, we dropped these nodes, grabbed some Impale, some more Impale, and are planning to continue to grab this Impale over here, and we grabbed the Sword Mastery for Impale over here, giving us a 95% chance total, which is awesome. We also grabbed the Watcher's Eye, which was 2.5-ish divines for a Impale Pride mod, and then like we said, we dropped Overwhelm in favor of Brutal Fervor. Now, we could go Headsman if we wanted to instead of Brutal Fervor, but I really don't like relying on culling in order to get a damage boost. As for next steps on this build, I think our next logical step is to start going into clusters. So we're going to grab a cluster jewel, make sure it has mana leech, drop this wheel entirely, and then go into that. We will need to compensate for this mana reservation efficiency that we're going to drop, but that shouldn't be too hard as we're not using a ton of auras anyway. One other thing that I'm going to do is grab an Intuitive Leap and put it right here, and we're going to grab Fervor, Herbalism, and Acuity for the same amount of points we have invested here currently. We lose a little bit of life this way, but I think it's worth it to grab Acuity. This also opens up the opportunity later to grab Heartseeker for a nice little damage boost. I think that outlines my plans for now. I'm actually really excited to see where this build goes. A lot of the upgrades after this point are going to be more and more expensive, as Flicker Strike is going to be hungry for more investment. But we're going to see how far we can push this build. I think today we should be able to take down Uber Elder and get our last Watchstone no problem. I forgot to mention we took down Maven yesterday as well, so we are at 3 out of 4 Watchstones, with Uber Elder being the only one left. If you want to see how this build progresses, I will be streaming it tonight over on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central, and we should be able to fight an Uber Elder when we get there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope your league start is going incredibly well, and I'll see you next time. Yeah, couldn't move. I don't know how to get out of that. I have no idea how to get out of that. Okay, don't get hit by slimes. Got it.